So what does the virgin birth and Pillsbury Doughboy have in common? They both teach truth through metaphors, images, and symbols. Yes? That's what they do. They teach the truth. Now, we don't have to believe in advertising to believe that the images and the symbols and the metaphors are real. It's what they invoke in us. That's the most important part. When I was growing up and I was little, remember that commercial for Exxon? Put a tiger in your tank. And when I was real little, I was kind of looking for a tiger in my tank, but I got later on, it wasn't meant to be taken literally. The tiger in the tank was a metaphor. How about the cereal? Was it Cheerios or with the Tony the Tiger? Which cereal was that?
Frosted Flakes.
That's Frosted Flakes. They're great. Was there Tony Tiger in there? No, not really, not really. So Mr. Clean, remember Mr. Clean? You take it out and you're waiting for this good-looking guy with the bald head and the big arms to roll up his sleeves and come clean your house. Did he do that? Does a lizard sell you car insurance? You know, the truth is it's not about the actual little interpretation any more than it is with the symbols that we'll be going through for the next 4 Sundays for the Advent season. The adventure of awakening to who we are. How many are going to be experiencing the Christmas Christ Mass season with your Unity family for the first time? Okay, there's several of you. There are actually a whole lot more at the first service. We're going to take a look at these symbols and metaphors as they relate to images of our own awakening. That's what we're going to use them for. That's the most important thing. If I walk over to my beloved Maureen, and I say to her, every time I look at your smile in the morning, it just reminds me of radiant beams of love, light, and glory. When I close my eyes and say the name Maureen, it's like the stars awaken within me. Right? That has power. I'm using images. I'm using metaphors for deep feelings that I have. Or I could say this, and I had to write this down because it's just too complicated. I could say, being in your vicinity sends energy signals down through thousands of tentric nerve endings, causing massive amounts of oxytocin and serotonin to leap across synapses, flooding my bioneurological system with chemicals that create pleasurable sensations in my brain and body when I'm around you. That would be like going on a date with Data from Star Trek, right? So it's about what it invokes in you. So when I say to you, how many here believe in the virgin birth that Mary was impregnated by God Almighty? How many here believe that literally? Actually, there were more people at the first service who believed in it literally, okay? That isn't important. We don't tell you to be a Unity Truth student, you've got to believe in that literal birth. We're more concerned with what the images and symbols and metaphors are pointing towards. Pointing towards. That's the most important part. When I was a long time ago traveling on the road during my little shtick on the road, and I shared this 4 years ago with you in a talk called Born Again, I was going to get some copies made at a copy center, and I pulled up next to a car that said, "Have you been born again?" Exclamation point. I parked right next to that car, and I saw the guy who walked out and got in the copy center. And I was in line getting ready to do my copies, and I had the title of my workshop sitting on this big flyer, and it said, Unity of Palo Alto welcomes Reverend Richard Levy, and the title of my workshop was From Adam Man to Christed Consciousness, a journey of awakening from separation to oneness. And this guy was literally looking over my shoulder and looked at Adam Man, Christed Consciousness, Unity of Palo Alto. He tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Have you been born again?" And I knew what the images and metaphors and symbols meant for him. I know what he was asking of me, but I also know what it means for me. Those images and metaphors and symbols mean something to me. So I could say to him with all honesty, "Why, yes I have." And he said, "Praise Jesus." And I said, "Raised the Christ consciousness as Adam Man is awakening to the glory of being a son and daughter of God." And he said, "God it, God it, God it." And I said, "I got it." And we left as friends. When I pulled out of the parking lot, I don't know whether he saw my Buddha on the back of my window, but that was something different. Nicodemus was someone who was a literalist in Jesus' time. And he came to be with Jesus and he asked him a question. How might I inherit this kingdom of heaven that you're talking about? Now, Nicodemus was lost in his left brain. He was looking for a literal, rational thinking, to prove to him that this thing about awakening had something to do with him. But he wasn't sure, so he's asking the question, completely loaded question. And Jesus said, you must be born again. And the literalist, the Nicodemus, said, born again? Does that mean I climb back into the womb and re-enter my mother? And Jesus must have went, oy vey. You consider yourself a scholar and a biblical man, and yet you're not getting what I'm talking about. This has nothing to do with your physical birth. This is about your spiritual birth. When your heart is pure and your mind is open and you're willing to be pure and open and innocent, that's where the Christ consciousness can be born within you. The symbols and images are pointing towards your awakening. You are made in God's image and likeness. You don't just have physical parents, you have spiritual parents. Father, Mother, God, principle, all that is, I am that I am, has made you in its image and likeness. You are its extension in the world. When you are born again to that, everything changes inside and out. The Buddhist term for being born again is to be beginning again. They say, begin again. Always begin again. With each breath, you begin again. You were just reborn. Be reborn with me now. You let go of something. You breathe in. You're reborn. You have been reborn again. You begin again. Over and over and over again. No matter what's been going on in your life, no matter what's happened, you are born again. The most important version of our story of the virgin birth is yours. What are you doing with the images and symbols and metaphors that show up in your own life in the form of people, circumstances, and conditions that keep repeating themselves over and over and over again? No matter where you go, there you are. And no matter where you go, the same things you left behind in the other town, in the other relationship, at the other job, at the new church, show up at the next church. Why? Because you are using the images and the metaphors of your own life to awaken. If you're using it for that. You use everything as grist for the mill for your illumination and awakening. That's what we're doing here. We're using everything that happens to us to awaken to who we are. Every day we do that. We are born again and again and again. So I could say to that man, I've been born again this morning when I sat on the cushion. I was born again at 10 o'clock when I got about traffic, that thing again that bothers me. And I'm born again now with you asking me this annoying question. It gives me a chance to go inside and take another deep look at what the image and what the metaphor of this moment in circumstances and conditions and challenges are coming to teach me. And you get the lessons over and over and over and over again. Aren't you glad? That's why we're doing the Advent season again and again and again. When you look at what the world is trying to teach you, you take the lesson in the moment that it shows up for you, right here and right now. Maureen and I, we get up every single morning and we begin again. We meditate, and sometimes we meditate and watch a oneness blessing on the computer because some nights were tough and we need both, you know. And we sit back down again, and what do we sit with? We sit with the images and the metaphors and the conditions and circumstances that have showed back up in our life again. What are these things trying to teach me today? Where have I gotten hooked again? Where have my unpure thoughts once again clouded my perception of oneness? And unpure thoughts are nothing more than any thought that separates you from anybody else. Because as you're separate from anybody else, you're also separate from God. We just look at those things over and over and over again. And most of my stuff, how about you, are repeat performances. This week is not that different from last week. It just keeps happening again and again and again. As we get to engage our life for our own awakening, everything becomes an opportunity to do just that. So about 4 talks ago, I talked about, remember the guest house? And we said that your physical house is like your spiritual home. You've got a basement and a ground floor, and floors up, 7 chakras there, and that you live in a house of consciousness. And we said that a lot of the deeper work that goes on in the basement. with the places that scare us. And we said our house needed a new duct system. We weren't able to breathe in and breathe out easily. We had leaks somewhere in our system. So we did what you all do, is try to get somebody else's version from outside of our thought system to help us take care of our problem. So we got 3 estimates from 3 different contractors, and they gave us 3 very different prices of what it would cost to fix it. A high of $6,000 and a low of $3,000. And every single one of those people who came in, they knew what our problem was, and they were going to help us fix it. They knew what it was. They'd come in and replace the whole thing, and everything would work great. And Maureen and I were like almost ready to take the middle offer. But something inside of us, and I know you've had this, said, don't do it yet. Wait a moment. There's something else that's about to happen. You ever have that feeling? Something says, don't jump yet. Wait, take a moment. Something else wants to come into your life to help you right now. But if you jump into it and make your commitment and write it down, you shut the energy off. So we know enough to be able to go, let's just wait. There's another version yet to happen. We don't know what it is yet. The next night, we went to dinner with Rob and Kathy Pacino at their house, had a lovely meal, and they were talking about their wonderful house and all the work they had done on it. They said, well, I know you've got work to do under your house. We've got someone who we love. They're this wonderful construction company. They're called Above and Beyond. People who are looking for symbols and metaphors in their life love to hear things like, do you want to give a try to something that's called above and beyond your normal thought system? Outside of your own thought system, we need help. We need teachings above and beyond how we normally act and react in the world. We said, yeah, that sounds like perfect. So we called Above and Beyond on the phone. It was a cosmic invitation. And they said, well, you know what? We don't do ductwork in houses, but we know somebody who does. And he is magic with duct systems and heating and air conditioning systems. We recommend you give him a try. And so we called someone else in, a 4th person. Don't be afraid to go shopping to get the right thing, but don't spend your whole life shopping. Decide somewhere you're going to make a decision. You spend your whole life shopping and you miss everything. So we had one more estimate, and it was from someone who came in and looked like he was doing the same things other people were doing. He put out his tape measure, he measured things, and he listened to all of our versions of what we'd been told before. It's good to do that. And I was starting to feel like I was an expert. I'd heard so much talk about what to do with the system. And he listened, and then he did something they all did. He went underneath the house and crawled around and looked at what was there. You've got to be willing to do that. But he stayed twice as long as the longest person stayed. He was under there for like 25, maybe 30 minutes. And Maureen and I, we were sitting in the back porch, swinging back and forth, and he was crawling around on the bottom. And when he came out, and he's a big guy, 6'2", he came out and it had that big suit on with the zipper, and he unzipped his zipper. And he stepped out, he had clothes on. He stepped out, and he was like an angel from Gabriel. He said, fear not, little flock. I've come to bring you good news of great joy. Your 40-year-old duct system doesn't need any work at all. It's a great system for what you have. It needs some repair work, but it does not need to be replaced, not until you replace the HVAC system. Would I replace all of your duct system? Then I would do it. That old stuff, some of it's much better than the newer stuff. Your system's still fine. However, I found out where your problem is with that moist smell you were getting in the house. And he said, I went all the way over to the corner of your house, to the furthest bedroom away from the HVAC system, and I found there was a gap between the vent and the pipe coming in of about a foot. That's what's been sucking in all the moisture from the ground. I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to tape that baby back up, and I'm going to come into your house, and I'm going to go to each one of your vents, and I'm going to put caulking around the space in between, and I think you'll be all set for 30 days. I think you should leave it just the way it is. We went from $6,000 to $3,000 to $75 to get it fixed. You see, when you're looking, and then sometimes you don't need major repair work. Do you hear me now? Sometimes your internal system just needs a little tweaking. Take a little extra vitamin C, don't eat quite so much, get a little exercise in. You don't need to replace the whole thing and pull it out. Sometimes it just needs minor adjustments. And sometimes you'll need minor adjustments, and sometimes you'll need a major overhaul. The truth is you don't know what it is for you. It's different for everyone. But when you're using the images and metaphors in your life for awakening, everything becomes a call for that. And when this man pulled out of the driveway, Maureen and I felt like we'd been blessed with an angel from above and beyond. And you will be blessed with angels and angels of God from above and beyond when you do this deeper work and enter into what the metaphors and images are trying to teach you. Everything will bless you. And it will come to you in specific forms with what you need in your real, everyday, practical life. Not just mystical, metaphysical, but right here now on earth, you will get what you need, the guidance that you'll need, if you're willing to stay open to the presence. Everything can become a teacher. Yes, that's what we're here for. So let's take a look at our lesson summation and see what we talked about today. Jesus used symbols and metaphors to describe profound psychological and spiritual shifts that happen within all of us on the path of awakening. We can accept or reject the idea of a literal virgin birth. What's important is knowing that the virgin birth is pointing towards no one's awakening but your own awakening. Number 3. Just as Jesus was born of one whose heart was pure and uncorrupted, so is the Spirit of Christ born within each of us, as our hearts and minds are made pure and clean through following our spiritual practices. Each time we enter into the womb of our own inner being and connect with the Christ consciousness, we in that moment are literally born again. How many times will you need to be born again? Over and over and over and over again. The symbols and the metaphors, the conditions, the challenges, the circumstances will keep reappearing to give you another opportunity to enter into a deeper relationship with the awakening of the Christ consciousness that's happening within you right now, right here and now. So this Advent season, we are going to go above and beyond our normal way of seeing things. We will no longer see through a glass darkly, but inherit the version of God's image and likeness that was given to you since the beginning of time. You are a holy child of God. No matter what you've done or haven't done, no matter how young or middle or old you are, no matter what your preference is in the world, you are a holy child of God. And to call yourself anything less than that is blasphemy. So in this church, we are going to look at each other and say, I behold the Christ in you. I know who you are. And because I want it to be alive in me today, in every cell and atom of my being, I'm going to be willing to see it clearly in you. We practice well and so deeply, not just for ourselves, but for all the other beings who share planet Earth with us. This adventure will be our awakening, not anyone else's. Practice deeply, practice well, not just for yourself, but for the benefit of all beings everywhere. Namaste.
Namaste.